Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Damn Podcast. I am your host, Angie Machado. Joined with me is BeaverBlitz staff, Doan and Jake Hedberg. You guys, happy summer. What in the heck's going on? Jake, how was your summer?
It's been pretty slow so far, just hanging out in Corvallis. Changed departments today, so that's pretty exciting, just getting ready for what's going to be a pretty fun football season.
Yeah. Davis, how about you?
It's been good. I've just been working and hanging out, exploring Oregon for all the natural beauty.
Nice. Well, you're in Bend, so you like to have natural beauty all around you.
Yeah.
Well, guys, hate to break it to you, but this is the best time of year because fall camp starts tomorrow. And Davis, you haven't experienced the gloriousness that is fall camp yet, but let me tell you, it's my favorite time of year. The sun is out, the weather's good, and football season's right around the corner. So not that we want to wish our summer away, but there's lots and lots to talk about as the Beavers get ready. So, the last time we talked football was in April, May, when fall camp or spring camp was on. Then we transitioned to baseball. It's been about a month and a half since we've done a podcast. So this episode is going to be all football. We're not diving into anything else. So if you're watching us live, make sure you ask us questions. In the chat, I'll try to get to some of that. I know that we are a little late. Jake's moving. Today was moving day for Jake, so he's had a couple little battles, so he was running a tad late. So I apologize for that. But fall camp kicks off. We are going to preview kind of what we are expecting, what we hope to see. There's been some adjustments to some weights this offseason, but what are you looking forward to most, Jake, about fall camp?
Yeah, I'm most looking forward to see these freshmen come in. Spring ball, got a glimpse at a handful of them, guys like Jake Normoyle, Blue Dancer. But, I'm really excited to see guys like Tristan Tia, Nick Fisher, Hogan Knapp. These guys that had pretty big senior seasons and are physically guys that are ready to play. I'm excited to see how they kind of, look going up against the 2s and 3s tomorrow.
Yeah. How about you, Davis? First one. I know you won't be at all the practices, but we're going to try to get you over for some. What are you looking forward to seeing and reading about?
I'm looking forward to seeing the defense, just how, mainly the DBs and just the secondary, and because they had a great spring camp, in my opinion, and super excited to see Trey Glasper in his first fall camp, and yeah.
He was one of those true freshmen in the spring that really, really popped when we were watching him. Want to talk a little bit about expectations for those of you guys listening and watching, about what you can expect from the team at BeaverBlitz. Know that we will be at every practice that we are allowed to be at. So we get a lot of availability. I think there's 14 fall camp practices we're allowed to watch. Video and pictures are kind of touchy. We get a few minutes at the beginning. And then reports, they dial back kind of what we can write about in some ways because they don't want any competitive advantages going to the opponents. But we're going to give you as much as we can. We will be there to talk about who's standing out, who looks good. If you've seen a Jake Hedberg practice report, just be ready because it'll give you a really good idea. We'll also have post-practice interviews with all the coaches, players, really good insight. We'll be breaking down, top 5 guys from week 1, week 2. And we'll also try to jump on periodically, right after practice, do a little walk and talk. Jake and I did that a few times last year and give you guys kind of a right after practice, kind of the initial reaction of what we saw. The first couple days, I will tell you, don't expect a ton because they won't be in full pads. It'll be an adjustment. I think they call it the acclimation process. It's not a lot, but it'll be enough for you football diehard junkies out there who want to know what's going on with the team. Let's just start with the new rosters, the weights, because there's some guys that really made some strides. I know Jake posted this in the lodge at BeaverBlitz. A couple that stood out to me, and you guys can kind of, I guess I'm anxious to see if this is good weight, but like a Blue Dancer, he put on 9 pounds. He went from 232 to 241. I think that's solid for him. Nico Taylor jumped 8 pounds. He's up to 264. Dexter Foster and Mason White both jumped 12 pounds. So you say that Dexter Foster now is at 236. Mason White, 194. That's a way better size for a safety for him. What stands out to you, Jake?
Yeah, the one that really stands out is Dexter Foster. Checking at 236. He was 224 at spring ball, but last season he played at around 215. So he's put on 20 pounds of muscle. Standing at 6'3", that's a legit linebacker size. I mean, that's as big a linebacker as I remember Oregon State having since Trent Bray's been here. He's a fast, physical player. Interesting to see how well he carries that weight. He did kind of have that longer frame, so I think he should be able to carry that well. But that's one that really stands out. Offensive line-wise, Josiah Timoteou's up from 308 to 316, and that one's pretty telling to me because, there were kind of questions about whether he was going to be a guard or a tackle, but with that build, it seems more like he's leaning towards playing the interior and playing one of those two offensive guard spots. So that kind of starts to answer the offensive line questions that Oregon State's, been having because there's been a lot of those. So it looks like he will take one of those spots at offensive guard. Outside of that, I think Salah's up to 222. I think that's a huge stride. That's a big back. He's been a monster in the weight room circuit all off season. He's up 16 pounds from the 2024 season. So, it's good to see these guys put on a bunch of pounds and a bunch of muscle.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Salah, Davis, and him coming in now at 222. Not only is that just a bigger, tougher guy to bring down, a more powerful back, but hopefully, prevent some injuries too. Also talking about offensive line, JT Hand lost 26 pounds.
Yeah.
So went from 308 to 282. Maybe he's your tackle.
There was another one that dropped 20 pounds.
Thomas
Snap, yeah. I think the plan is for JT Hand to still, be a backup guard or center. He doesn't have great height. It's looking like the tackles are going to be, Jacob Strand, Tyler Moreno, Keon Cox. Those are kind of the top three guys as it stands. Then guard looks like Timoteo, Tyler Volton, Sikorsky. Those three guys will be battling it out.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. We're going to jump right into the position groups. We'll start with O-line because I think it's one of my biggest question marks heading into the season is how that offensive line, a lot of offseason or a lot of last season, we have Digital Dam, maybe some Ozempic. That's okay. I don't know about that. These guys are on a pretty, I bet it's a low carb diet some of these guys are on, but no, the offensive line. So anybody I talked to about Oregon State football, Davis, you might have had this too, is offensive line. What are your expectations about this line heading into, let's just say the first 2 weeks of camp?
Well, they were very injured during spring, so didn't see a good starting group. So I mean, I would hope to see a more complete starters, players that are going to play as the first string, and hoping to see just competitiveness. They were getting pretty beat on by the defensive line, just trying to see if they can hold it to minimal sacks and pressures.
Yeah, it'll be huge to get some of those veterans back with Bolton. There's a whole group of them. So, Jake, what are you hearing? What are you seeing from that O-line? Do you expect most of those guys to be back?
Yeah, really not too sure yet. There hasn't been a big injury update yet. We'll find out tomorrow one way or the other. But, the time frame wise, it's been about a year for Tyler Volton. But his was pretty bad. It's been a year for Strand, year for Tyler Moreno. I'd expect to see Strand and Moreno for sure. Volton more leaning on the side of probably a wait and see. Sikorsky went down. I think he should be just about ready to go as well.
What I heard about him in the spring is that he should be okay. Yeah,
my guess is he'll be good for the start. Van Wells didn't practice in the spring. Heard that was kind of a load management type deal. He should be back and ready to go in the spring, or back and ready to go tomorrow. So I'm expecting a much more complete offensive line. And, the biggest thing I'm kind of looking for is improvement throughout camp. I'm not expecting them to go out and, dominate the first week, because usually the defense kind of is farther ahead the first week or two of practices, but ideally you see from week 1 to week 3 to week 1 to week 3 to week 4 that growth from that offensive line and really the offense as a whole. So that's something I am going to be watching very closely.
The offensive line unit, new coach with Coach Kavanaugh. Although I think some of the guys who were here under Coach Mahalichek, it's a little more of that kind of mentality. A little
definitely that style of coaching.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if anyone saw that video posted by the football team on Twitter and Instagram the other day. But if you haven't, go watch Coach Cav hike up.
Coach Cav is seriously like just one of my favorite people, one of my favorite coaches that I've ever been around. He yells. And actually, there were some curse words in that, but that was pretty mellow because
it was pretty toned back. Yeah.
It is an art form when he gets going. So no, he loves hard. He loves those guys. And I know he was embracing the challenge of getting the guys ready to go and wanting to have, really 10 guys that could start if need be day one. So that was going to be it was going to be a summer of getting to know each other and working hard. So I'm excited to see them and to see where they're at. But aside from the offensive line, I think the next kind of logical step where everybody's going to be looking, and it always is this way, is the quarterbacks. What are you looking to see? I mean, do you think, Malik Murphy, Davis, you were at every spring ball practice, definitely has the arm. He has the talent. It was just the timing and some of the connection. Do you expect that to be turned around here by the time fall is here?
Oh, yeah. I expect it to be a lot better, and just he's been playing with these guys all summer and getting to know them, getting to know how they run routes, how they like to catch the ball. I'm expecting him to be a lot more precise, but still, he'll still be able to throw that deep ball very well.
Yeah, he's got an arm. Jake, do you see this as a quarterback competition with Jabari?
No, I think Jabari Johnson will play. I don't think that's a question. He's going to find his way onto the field one way or the other. I think there'll be times where they're both on the field at the same time, potentially. I think he's too talented and too dynamic of an athlete to keep off the field. But in terms of starting quarterback, this job is Malik's for sure. I think Jabari is the quarterback of the future, but you don't bring in a quarterback of Malik Murphy's caliber, and you don't give him what was reportedly given to him to come and sit on the bench. So I think Jabari Johnson is going to see some time. May not be throwing the ball a whole lot. He'll be on the field. Excited to see how Coach Gunderson, kind of utilizes him because he's as dynamic and explosive as a player as Oregon State has. So that'll be something to kind of watch. Probably won't be able to report a whole lot on that because that's something that's going to be kept under wraps. But, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how well the consistency is from Malik. Just being in Corvallis and just going on walks. I've seen Malik throwing the ball to Trent and to Darius, just a player-led thing. And that's something that kind of stands out, and that gives me the belief that kind of cohesion is going to continue to build. And, I think those consistency issues will kind of slow down. And, as fall camp progresses and the pads come on, this Oregon State offense will start to gel some more and hopefully get locked and loaded and ready to go for Cal.
Yeah. Was there a player in the spring that had improved as much as Jabari Johnson?
Not on the offensive side of the ball.
The offensive side, yeah. Davis, can you think of anybody on offense that – he made a huge stride this spring.
I have
It was Davis's first spring. So.
From last spring to this spring.
We kind of just tossed him into the fire here. So you're doing good, Davis.
Taz Reddix is the one other one I would say.
Yeah. But he had some flashes last fall.
I think the move to the slot is going to end up being very beneficial.
Jake, there's some hate for you on the chat right now. Joe Swaim just said, do you guys think we could all chip in so Jake could get a proper haircut?
It's pretty short right now. I don't know. It's pretty short right now.
And thank you, old Bucktooth. He says Blitz team is the best team. Thank you.
That's crazy.
That's
not the first time I've had that happen either.
Jake, I know your hair's actually kind of short. Mine looks wild tonight because I don't know what happened. Anyway,
it's all sweaty, but
it's all good.
I'm wearing a hat too.
We have to have a little fun. So if you guys, Digital Dam, it actually, when we were talking about Coach Cav and his video, hog him up Sikorsky was my favorite line. Yes, Digital Dam, that was a good one. Okay. Yes, Taz Reddick's totally off topic there, but Taz Reddick's had a really good spring as well. Wide receivers, do you guys have too much of a question? I mean, is this Trent Walker, Darius Clemens, and Taz Reddick? Is that your starting three, or where do you see that shaking up?
I'd keep an eye on Jimmy Halson. He's a guy that a lot of Oregon State fans kind of forget about. He didn't play last season, had a really tough leg injury. But he kind of came on towards the middle and end of the 2023 season. He had a good game against Arizona, had a good Civil War, and then he had a pretty good game going up against some NFL talent in the Sun Bowl as well. So if he can kind of take a step forward and get back to where he was, and he's a big target, 6'2", 200 pounds. You put him and Clemens, and you can operate with Trent and Taz out of the slot. You can run some 4 wide sets. That's something that could kind of throw defenses out for a loop. But I do think Trent Walker is receiver 1. I think Taz and Clemens will kind of be 2, 3. But keep an eye out on Jimmy Valson. That's probably the one player on the offensive side of the ball outside the quarterback room that I'm most interested to watch this fall.
Valson, is there a guy who's been through as much as him as far as injuries? I mean,
Micaiah Tong.
I was going to say a long right with Micaiah Tong, and we'll get to him over on the defensive side. But those two have battled a little bit like Alton Julian too, years ago. I mean, just guys that just can't catch a break. So we're hoping, I think Beaver Nation is rooting for Jimmy Valson, but he is one to watch. You're right. I think a lot of people had kind of forgotten about him, but definitely one to watch. Running backs. Is that room stacked or what?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty deep room. Excited to see guys like Corday Glass tomorrow. He's a kid who, just driving through campus and seeing him, he's a kid who looks physically like he could go out there and play today. I think Marquise Crosby is a guy, he's a 1,000-yard rusher at a smaller school. He's a guy who could, come in and spell Hankerson. I'm not expecting to see a whole lot of Anthony Hankerson in the fall. I think they're kind of give more of the reps to Crosby, Sala, Hatcher, Reichel, kind of those guys to see who kind of steps up as, 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yes, Jake actually texted me when he saw.
I walked past him the other day.
Yeah, he's like grown man. So no, it'll be good to see those guys. One guy we didn't talk about in the quarterbacks though that I think will be interesting is Tua.
Tristan Tia.
Or Tristan Tia, sorry.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a good one.
Oregon State did not get Tua. By the way, sorry.
He physically, he's checked in at 6'2", 205. That's pretty good size. He can run the ball too. He's more of a dual threat quarterback, but he can throw the hell out of the ball too. Just based off his film, excited to see how he looks tomorrow. I'm assuming we'll probably see a decent amount of him and Callan Guttridge as they kind of battle it out for that third spot. So excited to see how that kind of progresses throughout camp.
Yeah. Digital Dam just said, is it fair to say every position on offense besides the O-line is deep? I can't remember the last time the Bees were this deep at wide receiver, tight end, and running back.
Yeah, I'd say it's fairly deep. I think a big part of that was the injuries that happened last year on both sides of the ball, kind of flung some guys in that weren't necessarily expecting to see time, and now having those guys back from injury and those guys that played and some portal additions that have played at other schools, it just kind of rounds out the depth of the group. Looking at this team in 2025 compared to 2024, the depth, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, is just leaps and bounds ahead of what it was, and it's to the point where, God forbid Oregon State does have an injury that's as catastrophic as last year. They've got the depth to back that up and not let it affect their level of play too much.
Yeah, and last year, and Davis wasn't here, but we had Ty and Jake and myself. We would during the season. I've never seen anything like it with Oregon State. When we had our end of fall camp 2 deep, 22 for defense, and 17 of those guys had been down with injury and missed playing time. I've never seen anything that crazy. So, but the double-edged sword of that the positive flip of that is that those young guys now come in with a lot of experience. And it does give you some depth. But we had a question about tight end. Who's tight end 1, 2, and 3? There is a lot of guys in that room.
As it stands, I think Bryce Caulfield 1, Riley Williams 2, Cooper Jensen 3. That's kind of how it looked towards the end of the spring. I think it's an open competition. I think Riley Williams could push Caulfield, but as of now, Caulfield 1. I do think the 2 tight end sets are something that we're going to see a little bit more of his season. I think the room's a lot deeper. Last year was kind of just Terry Caulfield. This year, Oregon State's got 4 legit tight ends with Jackson Bowers as well. And then I think a guy who could surprise some people is Carson Cobb, a redshirt freshman, walk on. He had a really good spring and fall he had a really good spring this year and a really good fall last season. He played on some special teams. So he's a guy who I think could, he's not going to go out there and catch, even 5 passes this season, but he's a guy who I think could progress and get to the point where in 2 or 3 years down the road, he could be Oregon State's, top 2 tight end.
That's yeah. I mean, did anybody stand out to you, Davis, during spring? Are you with like the Caulfield?
Yeah, Caulfield. I had the same ranking. I would have Caulfield, Williams, and Jensen. Jensen stood out. He had the touchdown catch from Malik Murphy in the spring game, and yeah, he seemed similar to Caulfield in like a more of a quicker tight end, in my opinion. And Riley Williams is like a bigger guy, and he'll for sure be used on. I think Williams will be used on the line a lot.
Yeah, I see Riley Williams, a huge goal line threat.
Yeah, I mean at 273 pounds, that's a big tight end. And then I think another tight end to watch, again, not necessarily this year, Cody Signer. He checked in at 6'6", 242 pounds. That's a big freshman. This will be his first
already
time.
Super strong. I mean,
he's a
rodeo
champion. He's a hell of an athlete. 6'6", 242. That's a big kid. This is actually tomorrow's going to be like one of his first times playing 11-on-11 football, I think.
That's right, because he played 8-man, didn't he? And
so that'll be a change.
And he's a 4-time state champion in basketball, so the kid has hops.
He's a hell of an athlete. Yeah, I think he's more of a raw. He's not going to come in and be like a Jack Velling type instant impact freshman, but I think he's a kid down the road that could be really good. And he's got NFL size. The potential is NFL potential. He's got to get that potential. And, everything I've heard, I think the work ethic is there. He's a kid who's a farm kid, hard work. So I think he's going to have a very bright future at Oregon State.
Okay, so you've kind of alluded along the way as we talked offense about who we should keep an eye on. But I'm going to ask both of you this question. Who are you most excited to see on offense this fall? Put them on the spot, you guys. Look at that. If you're in the comments, let me know who you're most excited to hear about this fall camp.
Malachi Durant's kind of one I'm looking for. He's not going to start this year, but I'd like to see him kind of push, David Wells, Hack Card, kind of push for a spot to be one of the top receivers off the bench and, get some actual playing time this season.
I'm excited to see Sala take a bigger leap, and like he had a great spring, and then he got reps at the end of last season once Jam went down, and I'm just excited to see him get more reps because I think he's like an insane athlete.
Okay, good. I have to go with Malik Murphy because I think his arm is an elite level that we haven't seen in Corvallis in a while. But I also want to hang on. I just saw I'll get to that. Just like Keith OSU. Hi, Keith. Thanks for listening. Last season, we ranked 137th in FBS in returning production based on ESPN's metrics. Percentage of yards returning next season. This year, we ranked 37th. 58% offense, 67% defense returning compared to last year. Crazy stat. Thank you for that, because that's 100 points up. That's crazy. Okay, yeah. So Murphy, I want to see, but you're gonna laugh at me, but I'm also curious, and I might not be able to report on this. We might not be able to report on this, but curious to see what Jabari Johnson and the packages they incorporate him on, because I think the offense is going to be a lot more creative this year. So I'm kind of curious to see what that, but I mean, you guys mentioned some great ones too along the line, and don't worry, we will be watching all of them with the reports, but that's who I'm excited to see this fall. We're going to take a quick break for the podcast side, and we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about defense. Okay, welcome back to the Dan Podcast. We just got done talking about the offense and doing a deep dive on what our thoughts were on the offense. Defense. Let's talk some defense, because I think that was a huge disappointment last season. The production that happened, and we just talked about it, a minute ago, and that a lot of that can be attributed to the injuries and the young guys that were kind of thrown in. But a lot of changes in the coaching side. And we didn't talk about the changes on the coaching side on the offense. There were several. But Coach Bray now has taken back control of the defense as D coordinator. What's the word, Jake? I know you're in Corvallis. What's the word on the defensive side? I mean, do you feel there's going to be a swagger back to the defense?
Yeah, I think it's a unit that's going to be a lot more intense than last season. Having Coach Bray, his personality, that fiery personality on the sideline, that's going to be something that's a step in the right direction. That's going to help get these guys, a little bit more fired up. I think the depth and, the overall talent is a lot higher. This defense really doesn't lose a whole lot. Jaden Robinson stings. That's a tough loss. But, outside of that, I think losing Chisholm and Jordan's tough, but I think Dexter Foster is going to be better than both of them. I think the overall talent in that room is probably a little bit better than last season. You really don't lose a whole lot. So it's a deep unit, experience. A lot of these guys were playing as freshmen and sophomores, a little bit undersized last year. Now they're, a year older, had a full another season in a Division I off-season, workout and strength and conditioning program. So I'm expecting to be a lot faster, a lot stronger, a lot more physical, and overall just a lot better than last season.
Yeah, I mean, and at some level, last year was Coach Bray was kind of thrown into the position as head coach, had never done it before. Last season, I think, was kind of drinking from a fire hose. This year, it's back to kind of he knows what to expect. So, guys, I need you to talk me off the ledge here, because just like on offense, I said the offensive line is what is my concern. And if the offense will go as good as the O-line is. Defensive line has struggled the past couple years to get any kind of pressure. Tell me why this year is going to be different.
I think the continuity of the group, you lose Samisi Haluni, which stings, but, he's a guy who's still in the room as a GA, so he'll still be, helping out, and that experience will be pretty valuable. But, Thomas Collins is back and fully healthy. He was a midseason All-American last year, or a midseason freshman All-American. But, injuries kind of affected his season. He's back and healthy. Savita Pomea is a guy who slimmed down 20 pounds from last season. He's a guy who, had issues staying on the field. I think he's going to be on the field a lot more this year, and I think he's kind of solidified himself as that second starter right next to Thomas Collins.
He did show better flashes as the season went on.
He seemed a lot quicker in the spring too.
Yeah.
Got Jacob Schuster still. It's a big guy. I think JoJo Johnson took a big step forward, and then you got some more depth. Nick Norris was a guy who didn't play at all last season because of I think it was knee injury. He should be back. Should be a full go. Tajay Holix is someone that the staff's pretty high on. He could be a pretty good player. Excited to see how he progresses throughout the fall. And then a guy who I'm really excited to see tomorrow. A guy might be the recruit I think has the highest ceiling of anyone in this 2024 class or 2025 class, I guess, is Nick Fisher out of Texas. He's 6'4", 260. Probably needs some more weight on him, but the kid's talented. I mean, he went to the I want to say it was the U.S. Navy All-American Bowl.
Yeah, it used to be the Army game, and now it's the Navy game.
Yeah, it was one of the two in Texas, and he had a hell of a showing there. Almost got bumped up to a 4-star. So he's a kid who could kind of come on and surprise some folks this season.
And so Davis, what were your takeaways from spring?
Yeah, JoJo Johnson looked really good. He looked like he took a
He got your MVPs, you guys. I mean, both of you guys, I remember writing about JoJo Johnson several times.
Yeah, there was a couple scrimmages in Reeser, and he seemed to be dominating in those. I think he had one day he might have had 2 sacks, and he looked really good. And yeah, I'm also very excited for Nick Fisher. I mean, I've heard a lot about him, and excited to see him, watch him play.
So we're going to meld right into the outside linebacker because a lot of the outside linebackers play kind of that edge rush. How big is it that Nico Taylor gets to come back for a year?
Huge. I think the coaching staff did a good job, getting talented guys out of the portal to help fill that void. Guys like Kai Wallen, Walker Harris, but getting Nico back, I think, is huge. I mean, he sets the tone on the edge. He's up to almost 265 pounds, which is a big boy coming off the edge. Should be a team captain. He's a great person. Excited to see how his pass rush improves. I think having an improved secondary and improved defensive line play is going to kind of help this entire group as a whole. Sacks and pass rush were an issue for Oregon State last season, but, Taylor and some of these guys I think are going to have a lot more opportunities to go get the quarterback this fall. And I think it's a group that is depth-wise is deep. I mean, it's as deep a room as Oregon State has. I think they've got 8 guys still that can go out there and play, and they've got 9 guys in the room. So,
okay. Who are you most excited to see?
I think, if you've been listening to the show for a while,
I know where you're going. Yep.
He's been, every time he's been healthy, he's shown a pass rushing ability that is one among the best I've seen at Oregon State. He's put on some weight. He's up to 290 pounds. So curious to see if they'll be bringing him off the edge. He didn't really practice in the spring. But he's a guy who I think has a bright future. I think Shamar Michael as well is a guy who's going to have a hell of a season. Zakai Saez, Kai Wallen, I think, is going to come up with that second starting spot across from Nico Taylor. I mean, you got guys. You got Walker Harris, Andy Alfieri, and then 2 freshmen who I think are going to be really good in Blue Dancer and Logan Knapp. So really, I mean, I guess the right answer to that would be all of them. It's a loaded group, and I think I put the secondary as my number 1 group position-wise, but the more I think about it and evaluate it, I'm thinking it may have been the outside linebacker group that should have been number 1.
Okay. Davis, I know you were high on Blue Dancer, the true freshman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You think he makes a play, and is on the 2 deep?
I mean, it's a deep squad, but I could see it. I mean, I could see it. He seemed like very tenacious and like grinding, I guess, during practice, and seemed like he really wanted to make an impact quickly. And he wasn't. I mean, obviously he's sitting there learning from these guys, but he seemed like he wanted to play now.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if you see both those 2 freshmen play, because if you really think about it, how much does a redshirt year even
anymore
matter in today's age? Yeah. Does it really matter? Because I'm not saying these guys are going to transfer out, but I mean, if you look at it, about half of Oregon State's recruiting class, maybe a little bit under, transfer out every year. Yeah. Just that's how it is for every program. Guys go, whether it's they go to a bigger school, they go to a smaller school, playing time. It's just the new era. So there's no guarantee that these guys are going to be here the whole time. So you might as well play them. I think it might be tough for them to crack a rotation just with how deep that room is. But I think special teams are guys. You want your dynamic, explosive athletes. I think you could see both those guys on kickoff team. Field goal block. You could see them go out there and get some reps. I'm curious to see how they kind of handle the whole red shirt deal, just because in today's era, it doesn't mean as much as it used to. The
only time a red shirt now kind of matters is if a guy actually needs to add weight. If he comes in way undersized, then.
And again, I don't think you have that issue with those guys. I mean, Dantzler's 6'2", 241, Knapp's 6'6", 242. I mean, those are, those frames are ready to play.
Yeah, and Dantzler's just long. That's what stood out to me during spring was just his length and athleticism. Moving into the inside linebackers, we talked a little bit about, that room. Do you think Micaiah Tongue? Do you think he gets to start next to Dexter Foster? How do you see that room shaping up? Because there's some depth there as well.
As things stand, yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be a competition. But if Micaiah kind of keeps playing at that level he was during the spring, I think he'll find himself in that spot, which is it's a testament to how hard he's worked to come back from such a devastating injury. I mean, I want to say he tore his ACL, MCL, LCL, meniscus. It's somewhere on his Instagram, but it was.
Yeah. And that was after he's had other issues. He had a hamstring issue. I mean, he's had some issues.
I think he had a shoulder or an elbow or something too. He's been through a lot, but I think what we saw from him in the spring was very promising. He's got that pass coverage. Being a former receiver, it makes it almost easier to read their routes. And I think we kind of saw that in the spring. I think if he keeps that trajectory, he's going to end up starting. I feel like the depth is good. Aiden Sullivan's been a guy that's impressed us. He redshirted last season, but I think him and Rajon Davis will kind of battle it out with Tongue for that second spot. But
we'll see all of them. I mean, those four, we'll see a lot of them.
Well, I think you're going to see all four of those guys play on Saturdays. Now, how much does Sullivan play? How much does Rajon play? How much does Micaiah play? I feel like that's what fall camp's going to kind of sort out. It's in my mind pretty clear that Dexter's number one. I think he has the highest ceiling and you saw what he did as a freshman in 2024. He's a guy who has a really bright future. He's a hell of a player. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that rotation kind of shakes out with that second spot.
I totally forgot about Rajon Davis too, because that's another one.
He was almost a 5-star recruit, so he's a talented kid.
And again, from a great program at Mater Dei and then at USC, has a nose for the ball. I know when the staff saw his film, I mean, it looked like Oregon State football.
It looked like a Trent Brown linebacker.
Yeah, he would go sideline to sideline. And I saw Digital Dam earlier mention Micaiah, how he might get emotional when Micaiah plays. And here's a guy who's been through a lot, but then he's also this legacy. With
his dad.
His dad Reggie played when I was at Oregon State, so very cool to see that. But I'm excited about that inside linebacker group. I think they could be much improved. But then you have the DBs. Jake, you just said a few minutes ago that before the outside linebackers, you actually thought that the DBs might be the deepest in the top of the group. Talk to us about that DB room. Yeah,
again, it's kind of that depth that was kind of accumulated last year. I mean, you had guys go down. You had Tobal Thomas go down in the first game. You had Kobe Singleton get hurt. Jaden Robinson was banged up at times. Really, everyone was hurt, and that allowed guys that weren't necessarily expected to play to come in and play. And I think that bolstered with transfer portal additions like, the guy like Trey Crandall, JUCO addition, Jaleel Tucker, and then a freshman and Trey Glasper. I think it's going to be a deeper group, plus getting guys like Noble Thomas back. There's going to be a lot of competition. I feel like Skylar Thomas is really the only sure thing in that room. I feel like there's a lot of flexibility as well. I feel like you can bump guys like Tyrese Ivy. You could bump him to nickel back and let Skylar Thomas, Jaheim Patterson, and Tyrese all play at the same time. You could bump Cy and Noble to corner. So there's a ton of flexibility. So I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out. I think there's going to be a ton of rotation, trying to figure out how you get your best 5 guys on the field. And, I think it's going to be a group that's going to be a lot more productive this season. Yeah. Davis, who stood out to you in the spring?
Trey Glasper, 100%. He looked amazing for a true freshman to come in and just play the way he did. He was running with the 1s and 2s most of the camp, I think, and making plays on ball, like breaking up passes, and he looked like a lockdown corner. But also Jaheim Patterson at safety, he looked really good, and he looks like he'll be a big contributor and probably a starter How excited? I mean, Kobe Singleton, I know he's battled some health injury stuff. He should be back. He came in highly touted. How excited are you to see him, Jake? Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. He's a guy who we haven't really seen a whole lot of.
didn't practice really in the spring last year, the fall last year, the spring this year. So it's more about getting to see it on the field because it's a deep room, some talented players. I think he's very talented. Just a matter of staying healthy. There's up to 5 to 6 players I could see starting at cornerback. So it's going to be tough, but I think he's a guy that's certainly talented of making that push for a starting spot. Excited to see him hopefully practice tomorrow.
Okay, who should we keep an eye on the defense, Jake?
Trey, like the secondary or the entire
defense? We're going now to the just defense.
I think a guy
Davis is coming to you too, so be thinking.
Trey Glosper's one, but a guy who I think isn't being talked about as much, even from our perspective, is Kai Wallen.
Okay, I know you guys have mentioned him.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's got a very bright future ahead of him. He visited Oregon State in 2023, 2024.
Yes, as a prep.
It was out of a JUCO, actually.
That was the American River, right?
Yeah, in Sacramento.
Yeah, Sacramento.
Then he committed to Nebraska, played a little bit there. He came down here, and he had a really good spring. I think he fits in. He's a very athletic kid. I saw him play basketball at Dixon one time, and he was jumping out the gym. I was like, oh, for this 260, 250-pound player to be jumping like that was very impressive. So I think he's a guy who is going to really turn some heads this season. I think this outside linebacker group is very deep as a whole, and there's a handful of guys from that room who I'm kind of excited to see. But Kai is one of those guys that kind of is maybe more falling under the radar from the fan base perspective, and I think he's a name that people should be pretty excited about. Digital
Dam says, I know Kai Wallen was someone Coach was over the moon about. He recruited him the first time, was able to get him. J58, is Hickle still here? Yes, Jake was talking about him as being a player that he was super excited to see healthy.
If Dakari's healthy, he'll turn some heads.
Yeah. Okay, Davis, who are you excited?
I got, I think 2. I say Shamar Michael. Very excited for him. I think he's a long outside linebacker, and he was playing pretty good. He played, I think, he played a lot during the spring game, and seemed to make a few good plays. And then Marion York.
Oh, okay, yeah, another one. Yeah, good call.
He was a hard hitter, from what I watched.
He's physical. Yeah. I remember, was it spring ball? He upended somebody.
Reichel.
Yeah, he upended Reichel.
Yeah, he upended somebody.
And Reichel was on the ground for a little while.
Downhill. He plays fast.
Yeah, Jake Reichel's a big kid. He's a physical back.
Yeah. No, that was a very good call.
I like that one. That's a good.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm excited to see Saiz. And maybe that's selfish because I thought he was the most fun interview that we had post-game all last season. He spoke and you just had a smile on your face because he was contagious. But
Jam was pretty good last year with the baby.
Yeah, with the baby. But Sakai just had a great persona about him. Just was great. Somebody just mentioned we haven't mentioned Kelsey Howard. He's just been battling injury. He just hasn't. He's been bit by the injury bug and hasn't been able to contribute yet. But I think his rap career is budding, though. I see him with dropping songs. So, okay. So we're gonna, before we jump into some damn questions. Also, I'm seeing on my Twitter. So just if you are on the coast or in Hawaii, our thoughts are out with you. I guess there's a tsunami warning after a big, almost 9 earthquake outside of Russia. 8.7 it looks like now. So if you guys are in Hawaii, get to higher ground. They expect the first wave to hit around 7:15 p.m. Hawaiian time. So that's in 3 hours. Anyway, I saw that. I know some of our listeners and members are in Hawaii. So scary stuff, but be safe. We're gonna do some way too early. And this is gonna be kind of quick hits for you guys. This is the way too early discussion. And we'll probably revisit some of these questions as the camp goes on and we get a better idea. Because right now we're kind of flying off of what we've seen in spring and what we've been reading. So, freshman to watch. Jake, way too early. Top freshman.
Okay, I'm gonna go. I know what Davis
Maybe
is gonna
two.
say. I know what Davis is gonna say, so I'll pivot and go Nick Fisher.
Okay,
I think
okay.
he's a guy. I think Dantzler and Knapp are two to keep an eye on as well, as is Corday Glass. But I think Fisher is going to be one of the more talented guys in that room.
Okay.
I think Tristan Tia is probably the guy I'm most excited about, but he's not going to, he's not going to play this.
Yeah.
He's not going to start this season. He's probably not going to play. He's a kid who's going to redshirt. So I think Fisher's probably the one that comes to mind. Trey Glasper as well. He's a guy who I think could very well start. But
so Jake just named the entire 25 signing class, Davis. Who are you going with?
I named 6.
Yes.
Yeah, Trey Glasper, 100%. He looked amazing. Can't say it enough. Just
I want to see.
excited.
I want to see Corday Glass. Corday Glass.
Yeah, I don't know how you say it. I'll have to figure that
Yeah,
out.
we have to get that. Corday.
Yeah.
I want to see him just because Jake, like I said he looks like he's ready to play now. Nick Fisher too. I want to see him. But we have had the pleasure of seeing Blue Dantzler and Trey Glasper in both. Trey is probably If you said what true freshman is going to play, that would be a guy. Definitely. Okay, way too early. Offensive MVP.
I mean, it's hard not to say Malik Murphy. I'm going to pivot from quarterback. It's just kind of a two-man.
Jake's just getting like.
I mean, because I feel like quarterback's just like the easy answer. I think Anthony Hankerson and Trent Walker are kind of the two. I feel like it's not a very sexy answer because it's the easy answer. They're the guys who are proven.
Poor Davis. By the time it comes to Davis, Jake's already named half the offense. So
if I had to pick one, I'm gonna go with Anthony Hankerson.
Okay.
That was what I was gonna say. Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, that's fine. You guys can have the same. I mean, how about defensive MVP? We're gonna start with Davis this time.
Oh, good. Nico Taylor.
Okay, that's a good solid pick.
Jake would say him too.
Yeah, I was going to pick Nico, but I'll go Skylar Thomas with an honorable mention to Dexter Foster because I think Dexter's going to be it.
There's a lot of good options. Nico is one of those guys, like you said, he was on the podcast last year, and just a great person. Love talking with him. Every time I see him when we're down there, he's always pleasant. But I felt that things were really starting to click, and he was playing fast by the end of the season. So to have him back and as a leader on that team and on the defense will be fun. Okay, what does the offense need to show this fall? Fall camp.
Offensive line growth. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but it's the biggest question mark on this team, in my opinion.
On the whole team, yeah, exactly.
Outside of the kicking game, but.
We're not even going to talk kicking right now because
I think there was a question in the mailbag about that anyway.
There is, and we'll probably have to wait on that until we actually see who shows up, what they look like.
I think the kicking is pretty much decided. That's going to be Caleb Ojeda, I think.
Ojeda, yeah.
It looked pretty clear that he was a top guy in the spring. But offensive line.
Yeah.
Big question.
Davis, are you going with O-line? I mean, that's kind of the big question.
Yeah.
Or you got something new? You got going to throw me a curveball?
No, it's kind of like the centerpiece of everything. You need it.
Yeah.
You need a good offensive line for a pass and run game. So,
yeah, this team will go as far as the O-line will let them go. What does the defense need to show this fall camp?
I'll say just pressuring the QB. Last season wasn't great. Like we said, couldn't pressure other teams. Made it easy for them. So as long as we can get good pressure and make their quarterback think quick, make bad decisions, all that type of stuff.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question then. How are we going to know watching fall camp if Oregon State's defensive line is getting pressure or Oregon State's O-line is just not doing a good job? That's going to be a hard.
True.
It's also tough to get a gauge when you're really not going 100% full speed all the time. Like the scrimmages are telling. But, the first week they're going to be in shells or skeleton, just a helmet.
We have a comment. Sorry. Poor Jake is getting picked on tonight. Jake can't name just one. His nickname should be Lays.
I'm just getting flamed, man.
Oh, Jake. Poor Jake. Okay. That's a good one, actually. Good call. Okay, Jake. So what do you sorry, I totally interrupted you there, but that was funny.
I forgot what I was saying.
Okay, let's not even worry about it. Okay,
Yeah.
Which players will break out during fall camp?
I feel like Taz Reddick's offensive side of the ball.
Or Jimmy
One to keep an
Valson?
eye on. Jimmy, yeah, we kind of touched on him earlier. Defensively, I'm excited to see Trey Crandall again.
Okay.
Cornerback transfer.
Yeah.
Really just kind of how I'm really excited to see who separates himself in the secondary. That's going to be pretty telling, I think. Because Skylar Thomas will be one starter, but, there's a handful of guys that can start at safety, a handful at nickel, and then a handful at the two corner spots. So,
yeah, you're right. Skylar's kind of the only locked in, but there's so many players there.
Looking at the group, like the secondary, I think you could see Tyrese Ivey start. I think you could see Jaheim Patterson start. You could see Noble Thomas. You could see Crandall. You could see, Jaleel Tucker. You could see Sy. You could see Trey Glasper. Just a handful of guys, really. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of separates itself.
Davis, you have anybody different?
Riley Williams, I think, could make a big impact. Just hopefully we'll be seeing 2 tight end sets, so it'll be easier for him to just make a difference. And on the defense, I said Amarian York, but let's see. Just seeing if JoJo has really taken that step and set and it not just being like a good spring, seeing if it's a big step in his game.
I think Dexter Foster is my guy. I think we saw glimmers of what he could do last season, and the sky's the limit for him. So I think if he could have a breakout year. Which players have the most to prove this fall? Who are guys that you feel like if they don't have a big fall, they're going to get buried?
Let me look. I got to pull my depth chart here. It's kind of hard just because I feel like there's going to be a ton of rotation. I think
I feel like it's got to be a receiver. Is it?
Yeah, you're thinking Zach Card, maybe David Wells,
And not that they're.
Yeah.
I just think they have a lot to prove.
The guys that have been in the program now for 2 years. It's just tough with all the talent in front of them, and even the talent pushing them from behind with Durant and free off those younger guys. I think Kobe Singleton is a guy that's got a ton to prove. We've heard a lot, haven't seen a lot, so I think that's a guy that kind of fits that category.
There's some guys, but the one thing I do know is that we'll have. I think each week we'll come back to you guys. We're going to do a damn podcast each week during fall camp. So we have 3 weeks of being able to kind of give you the latest of what, who is stepping up. We can revisit some of these questions and that, okay, who has been stepping up and, who is the MVP? Maybe we'll have an MVP each week. I know we do each practice report. We have an MVP, but I think it's a really good look. We have a ton of damn questions. So I want to jump into that so we don't go way past an hour here. But Beaver Fan 2021 asked, any idea how season tickets are looking? I got an update.
I have no clue.
I had someone call me. Gosh, it's been about a month now ago, and actually said it was. For the they're down a little with kind of the schedule, but it's been better than they expected. So I didn't get a number, but single game tickets went on sale yesterday. So I have a feeling,
And for fans who are looking for the themes of each game, they posted.
Oh, did they?
The first 3 games, yeah. The Cal game is dark mode, which is blackout, I believe. Fresno State is an orange out, and then Houston on Friday night's a black and orange out, which makes me think we could be seeing a black, orange, black from the uniform combo, which is always exciting to see that. So, the rest of the list was on the football website, but I don't have that down.
We'll have that all on Blitz too. in the lodge. We'll have that posted.
Yeah, they just posted that a couple hours ago.
Okay, perfect. So that's, that Cal game is huge, and we will get into that. We've got a couple weeks before we actually start talking Cal, but that early season schedule, that's, in my opinion, it's make or break for the team. If they need to come out of the gate pretty strong. Okay, let's Beaver Fan 2021. Do you expect most, if not all, of the projected starting O-line to be healthy and ready to go? I think
we shall see.
We shall see.
Bolton's really the only one I'm doubting. Not doubting, but not optimistic that we'll see tomorrow. But I would expect, based off what they kind of did during the spring, to see Strand and Moreno and Sikorsky.
Jump drive. We love you, Jump. We talked about this. Do you believe the tight ends will be used more in the offense this year? And who will be the top receiver? So you think Trent Walker will be the top receiver?
Yep.
And we've talked about kind of throughout the podcast, just tight end. Davis is one of Davis's things he wants to see is just how creative Gundy can get in using those tight ends, 2 tight end sets. That's a lot more. Yeah. So Ron Wall, this was my question actually to these guys is, now that the O-line starter should be back for fall camp, will the offense be able to move the ball on the defense, or the defense still dominate? That's going to be a question mark.
The hope
if
is
the defensive line is better, it should get the offensive line sharpened as well.
Yeah, I think the hope is just the offense elevates itself throughout. You hope the defense comes out the first couple of days and stifles the offense. It's just about seeing that growth from the offense from the start of camp to week 3, week 4.
Yeah, it is that progression, and so don't be hitting the panic button when the first week of practice reports and we're all saying that the defense is dominating. It kind of is the way it works.
Every practice.
Go Beavs 12 asked for Taiji Hill update. We have
TBD.
nothing. Yeah, I just asked about that, and that is a TBD. I do expect to see him out. This is a long, ongoing deal. So it's out of the football team's hands. What are the vibes like around the team going into year 2 under Bray? Are the players bought into the Bray culture?
Yeah, I think it's a very culture-heavy team. I'm in Corvallis. I go on walks every morning. I've seen Skylar Thomas, leading player-led stuff. Seen guys going through their workouts, and they look emotionally invested. I think last year was pretty, disappointing to a lot of these guys. It was like a gut punch almost after, how good Oregon State was in 22 and 2023. And I think they're going to want to get back to that same, level. And I just think the vibes are a lot higher. I think the talent's a lot higher. I think it's going to be a lot better season in Corvallis.
And the coaches seem to be more.
The coaches are all very close. It's a very tight-knit community. I think it's something special. I don't think, I obviously don't know because I haven't been around other programs, but it seems pretty unique.
Well, during spring ball, you could just tell. Rob Akey and then having Langsdorff kind of back and Kavanaugh and Kreiner. There's some veteran coaches along with some younger guys that, but they seem to be having fun out there. I love seeing Trent back coaching defense or, being more hands-on. God, I think looks like he could possibly still suit up and beat half those guys out there. But okay, True Monkey 31 asks, how big of a recruiting class do you expect for 26?
Yeah, I think there's still some spots that need to be addressed. They're sitting at 11 right now. I think offensive line, obviously, don't have any commits yet. You lose a decent amount. I'd probably say maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 offensive linemen, depending on how much the recruiting staff wants to add there. I think tight end, you need a tight end with Caulfield set to graduate and Gabe Hilborn as well. Defensive tackle, Oregon State had one, but then Hoa Tischendorf flipped to West Virginia. I think you're going to see probably 2 defensive tackles, and then you've got 1 outside linebacker in Adele Dorr. I think you add 1 more, just kind of a bigger, longer one. Kind of a guy in the more of a Nico Taylor type build and a Logan Knapp type build. And then outside of that, I think you may see a guy at another position. Just depends on what emerges, who kind of separates themselves with a standout senior season. But those spots are for sure. If I had to guess a number, I'd say probably anywhere from 17 to 20.
For the total class. Yeah. Okay, this is for both of you guys, Reese or Beaver. There's a lot of questions that kind of talk about the schedule. We're going to get to that later on in the fall camp here. We really just want to kind of take a deep dive into the position groups for this one. What would a successful season record be in your eyes for year 2 of Bray?
I was actually just talking about this with a friend of mine just before the podcast. But, I think with how the schedule sets up, I think 8-4 to 9-3 is kind of that sweet spot. I think 10-2, 11-1 is possible. It's going to be tougher. But I think if you go 7-5 with this schedule, that's where it gets a little concerning. I think 8-4, 9-3, you set yourself up for a LA Bowl, a Vegas Bowl, the Sun Bowl potentially even. Although I don't know if I want to go back down to El Paso again for the 4th time. But yeah, I think something in that range is very attainable with how the schedule kind of sets up. I think the key is going to be getting through their first 5 games 3-2.
Yeah,
I think if you can do that, then the back half of the schedule sets up pretty nicely.
Davis?
I was thinking 8-4 is like a good.
You'd feel good if they went 8-4.
Feel good, yeah. Like it would be a good floor for I would like it as our floor, not our ceiling.
Yeah.
But yeah, about around there, like 8 to 10 wins is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And again, it just so much can depend on, like you said, those first few games really out of the gate. If you can beat Cal, Oregon's going to be a tough one. Texas Tech could be a tough one. But yeah, you look at that schedule. Blodgett Beaver asked, are practices open to the public? No, they're not. So you're going to have to stick with BeaverBlitz. So if you're not a member, now is a perfect time to join. I promise you, this is, Digital Dam says 9-3 is what he expects. I think Oregon, Texas Tech will be tough, and playing in Pullman in the season screams chaos. That's
going to be tricky, playing Wazoo at the end of the year. It's tough to beat a team twice.
Yeah.
But
no, it starts tomorrow. So I'll be jumping up early, drive down to Corvallis to meet Jake. I'll try to get some photos of the guys as they come out. They've changed things up, though. It used to be a lot easier to get photos of everybody, but be there bright and early with coffee in hand. And then we'll get that practice report up. Like I said, if you're not a member, now is the perfect time to join. Fall camp is where all the action is in the lodge at BeaverBlitz. So you definitely want to be a member and get all the latest insight. But we'll be back. What do you guys say, next week?
Yeah, next week.
Next week? Perfect. We'll be back next week for another episode of the Dam Podcast.